And welcome once again to the world famous Lock and Load Show, broadcasting across the interwebs on gun channels and all around the world to anybody that wants to listen. Talking about guns, freedom, and the truth until dawn. And there is some crazy goings on in the. Have you guys been following this Florida election shit? It's completely getting out of control. I think I got. Let me do a screen share of this. Right. Some of this is just unbelievable. Screen share button. Right. This is not my favorite source of news, but it was on Fox News too. Provisional ballot boxes from the Broward County Supervisor of Elections office were reportedly discovered in the back of an Avis rental car at Fort Lauderdale Airport on Sunday night. As first reported by investigative journalist Laura Loomer. And so I like the tweets from the Sheriff's County, the Broward Sheriff's. Let's see. The first tweet says, "Our deputies and bomb squad are responding to the report of a suspicious package outside the airport terminal 4. And then it says, "Our deputies have deemed the package safe." So yeah, they sent the bomb squad because it was a suspicious package. I mean, so they're like 100,000 votes short of what they need to win the governor, and so they just find like 100,000 provisional ballots somewhere, like in a rental car. Nobody, no chain of custody. Nobody knows who cast them or where they're from, and it's just they're gonna start a criminal investigation into this Brenda Snipes person. So it's just, some of this shit is amazing. I've never seen just a ballot box just left in a rental car at an airport before. I've never even heard of such a thing. Even in a banana republic, the Banana Republic of Florida, that's just over the top. But
no, and really, why can that happen in the United States right now? It's just because there is so much fake news that we don't know what is real and what is not.
Well, I think it's a corrupt election official is what it is. Brenda Snipes or something, or
yeah, but nobody knows whether that's real or it's not real. So people don't really care.
The tweets from the sheriff's department, I mean, gave it some credibility. I mean, the sheriff wouldn't have tweeted that deputies were responding to a suspicious package if they weren't responding to a suspicious package.
Which somewhere I read a text or something that said that Florida had 11 something, whether it was 100,000 or million or whatever registered voters, and they actually recorded 12,000 or some actual votes. So basically, they recorded more votes than they had registered voters for.
Well, all I know is I saw the news conference immediately after the election when somebody asked Brenda Snipes how many people voted, and that's her job to count votes and know that stuff. And she said, "I don't know, and I don't have it on the top of my head." It's like, well, that's your job, you stupid, dumb motherfucker. Anyway, let's talk about something.
But really, how can that happen in the United States? I mean, right now we should have
corruption.
We have all the technology in the world. Voting machines. They keep saying voting machines aren't accurate, but really, they are accurate. I mean, we have computers that can do everything.
Whole hanging Chads thing in Bush versus Gore, and it's like, let's not relitigate that one. So
you ever notice all this shit only seems to happen in Florida?
Yeah, it was the same person. Brenda Snipes was the same person in charge last time. I mean, I really won't wonder what Sean from Florida Carry has to say about all this, but he's probably too busy drinking or something. Speaking of which, I got some.
But really, we brag that we're a nation of technology, and we don't have enough technology to run an election?
Well, if you want to game the system and commit fraud, you probably just want to do as much hand-counted ballots as possible. I don't know what they're doing. Here's my new whiskey that I picked up today, single malt Irish whiskey. So I'm going to give that a try on today's show in a little while.
You don't need that.
What do you mean I don't need that? Well, I don't need it.
That's not good for you. That's not good for you.
I thought you said alcohol was a blood thinner.
It is.
So it's your fault that I'm drinking, okay?
No, it's not my fault. No.
Well, I choose to blame you. So can we talk about Veterans Day?
That'd be good.
Yeah, so today's Veterans Day, and so thank you to every veteran every military person who past and present who stood up to fight for America. I mean, thank you. I know that for yesterday I was watching war movies all day, and I bet Squib didn't watch the ones that I recommended, but I like the Guns of Navarone. At TCM, they had veterans pick all the movies. They had, a veteran came in and picked each movie. There was one guy from who was in Afghanistan who lost both of his legs. I think he picked The Longest Day, and there was a Vietnam Special Forces guy who picked The Guns of Navarone, because it's like a Special Forces team being sent in on an impossible mission. And then there was just every movie had basically a veteran came in and picked which movie they liked. Oh, I saw a Marine movie, which Jack Webb plays the drill sergeant, the DI, drill instructor. Everybody's so used to Arlie Ermy. Before that, there's a black and white film called The DI with Jack Webb, who was basically better known as Sergeant Friday in Dragnet. And I found it interesting that back when this movie was made, M1 rifle, he said the government paid $80 for that M1 rifle, so you better take care of it. Shit, they're worth more than $80 now. Anyway, so I don't know. I almost don't know what questions to ask to like our vets that are happen to be here. Why'd you decide to sign up? And help me out with an intelligent question to ask.
Give me a minute. It's Veterans Day, and I'm still working my ass off. The only time I ever got Veterans Day off paid was when I was active duty. One time I was a civilian, I was a veteran. Nobody ever gave me the day off paid. So give me a minute. Let me finish salting. Even though I'm supposed to be off the clock right now, I'll be on in a few.
Yeah, sure. Take your time, bro. We'll figure it out. So yeah, had some pretty funny conversations on Jared's. Was it a kind of lobby live stream last night with B. Girk?
After I left.
Yeah, it got pretty crazy if you actually go back and listen to that about how he thought that though they were really fat. He was learning some appendix carrying is really fast, and him and his people could come in and take my place and take all my ammo and all my preps and stuff, and it's like, well, what's going to happen when I detonate my binary explosives right in front of you? and they said, well, we're going to get all your ammo and carry it out of there. It's like, dude, you don't have enough people to carry all my ammo because there's just fucking too much of it.
Oh boy.
But it was funny.
Can you hear me better now?
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah, I had to. That other headset, if I use it, you got to turn my volume up. But then when I use this, I only have so much phone battery.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you want me to do? Just leave you write this. If you need to go back to the other one, let me know, and I'll turn
yeah,
up your volume.
If I have to switch back over. Yeah, those guys are kind of lit. My God, they're just getting kind of crazy, and I just left. I was just like, yeah, all right, I'm just gonna. I left the chat running, but I just left.
Yeah, and then it got into like, what are you going to happen? Well, what if there's like basically B group was saying, well, eventually there's going to be gun confiscation, and we're going to lose all of our Second Amendment rights. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, from my cold dead hands and all that. It's like, at the way this country's going, you think like, geez, I hope there's not going to be a civil war. and then I had some pretty insane solutions to if that eventuality actually happened. But like reading the 48 Laws of Power book that I was talking about the other time, it's like if you're going to take action, they say take the boldest possible action that you possibly can. So, I mean, I kind of said on his show or your show what the boldest possible action that I could take was, but I'm not going to say it on my show, or at least not on the air.
No, I wouldn't, especially with extreme risk protection orders.
Yeah.
I try not to. I might actually go just remove the older chats now that they're said and done with.
Yeah, you might want to remove your last ones after you listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just hope that. I mean, that Hillary Clinton doesn't actually. She said she wants to be president, and that I think that she's going to run again or something. So, oh my God,
She'll run.
Well, you got Kamala Harris, you got Elizabeth Warren, you got Ocasio-Cortez there. I mean, she's not. I mean, she's a congresswoman, but I mean, still, you got people like her who knows she.
I mean, I don't want to have to throw. It's like if there was a revolution, it wouldn't be against the federal government. It would be like people revolting against their state government. But because the federal government is like this thing very far away. That's just a concept. I mean, the people that are revolting against the federal government are. I mean, it's like the Democrats versus the Republicans. I mean. It seems like it's never going to end.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. All right, I went to
a perfect head.
Sunday was the 100-year anniversary of Armistice Day.
Right, World War I.
Yeah, November 11th, 2018.
That was another hell of a damn war. Started when the Prince Ferdinand
Ferdinand, yeah.
Archduke
Ferdinand was assassinated
in Sarajevo.
With what kind of a handgun?
It was oh man, it was I know this too, damn it.
Is it one of the, is it an FN? Is it an FN or
you know what? Yeah, I thought it was an FM. Shit, I can't remember. I keep wanting to say it was an M930 1934 or 35, but that's the Beretta that was used to assassinate Gandhi. Besides, that's a few decades too late. It was a really inexpensive gun. You know, why do all these assassins use cheap guns?
Well, because I don't know that many assassins. I can't figure that out. Let me just look it up on the internet.
Put the ass in assassin.
Oh, and hey, HVS wasn't recently their Polish holiday that popped off.
I saw all the advertisements. I mean, just because my grandfather fought in the Polish Second Corps doesn't mean I keep track of their holidays. I mean,
wasn't it like their 100th anniversary or something?
I don't know. I saw the ads on Fox News. Archduke Ferdinand.
Mm-hmm.
N-A-N-D.
Ferdinand with a D. Yep.
Of Austria. All right, let's see if it says what kind of handgun he was assassinated with. Here.
My hands are covered in grease, so I can't Google it.
Oh man, are you trying to remove? Oh no, wait, you're working on that boat motor, aren't you?
No, the Chinese shotgun's getting a thorough cleaning.
Oh, okay.
Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The perpetrator was 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, a member of Young Bosnia, one of the group of assassins organized and armed by the Black Hand.
Dun dun dun.
All right.
Those are the guys who were fighting Jackie Chan.
Last chance to guess what it is. I got to the part where it says what it is. Anybody want to guess?
It was an FN model 1903.
Wrong model.
Shit.
Add a few years to that.
FN 1909. I forget what it is.
Edwin year.
1910. There you go.
You got it. Victory. It's so that's a 388.
What the hell was that?
If you would have watched the movie too, I told you the other night, you would know. It wasn't an Imperial Walker.
Not all of us have time to watch movies, HVS.
Yeah.
Wait, but it was Sunday. I know he wasn't working on
Sunday
Saturday.
I was
some
at
of
the
us
range.
work on Sundays.
Yeah, Sunday I was at the range trying to get in some more trigger time. Need to practice before I try to shoot that deer.
Really? Trigger time. Wow. You need practice with to hit a deer with a long gun? Okay.
Yeah. Practice
Considering
is
how
good.
much real time I get to practice, and the fact that I've only had that gun for what?
Whereas I need an Allen Iverson quote.
Yeah, I've had the gun less than 2 years, but I had.
And when he brings it here, it won't shoot right. So
yeah, it was missing a pin. It's
Which
missing
gun?
a pin that's shaped like a paperclip.
What rifle are you using?
44 Magnum Henry Big Boy.
Well, that'll get the job done if it's working.
Oh.
What?
I just got sprayed in the face with CLP.
Oh, that sucks.
Make sure you lick it off your face. Yum yum.
Oh, it's the Lucas brand, so it smells even better, actually. Or it
Oh
burns.
yes, you'll have minty fresh breath.
It burns too, so just a heads up.
If it tingles, that means it's working.
Okay, there's something weird about this whole segment.
And also, if he hands you a gun to shoot, don't shoot it. You might get a face full of fire.
Who, me?
No,
that only
Squid.
happened once, but still.
Yeah, and I'll never forget it. That is a
Hey,
life
it made
experience.
a great video. It's
Keep
Is
your
there a
I can
video
relive
of
that
this?
over and over again.
Is there a video of this thing?
Yes,
Keep your-
but I'm not going to release it onto the internet.
Oh, you're no fun.
Keep your chronographs at a minimum safe distance.
Well, I heard the story about that one, but
I'm just joking.
Yeah, now that one I'm going to own because I did it twice. Okay, but the fireball was just once.
Yeah, and if Rupan would have been on Facebook 2 nights ago, he would have seen it.
all right. Let's see. Slowly making progress on getting this fucking jar of whiskey open. Where's my knife? Oh, here's a knife. I'll use the knife. That'll help.
So I don't know if I mentioned this, but I used I got like a Chinese copy of a Saiga.
Okay.
And, I went to test it out. I had about 200 rounds of shotgun ammo. I go to the range and it's pumpkin shoot day.
Perfect.
So I fired about 50 rounds of buckshot and rifled slugs, and then I fired about 50 rounds of target ammo, and I just blew those pumpkins to I mean, at one point I blew the top off one of the pumpkins. Just, yeah, I'm watching everybody else. You know, a guy next to me had a 44. He let me use it, putting little holes in them, and then I take over the shotgun and I blew the top right off of it.
Yeah, shotguns have their uses.
It really puts it into, you know what I mean? It's not something, I've never shot a target like that with a shotgun.
Wow.
And I was
I
able
have
to,
20 pumpkins on my front sidewalk that I need to get rid of. That sounds
go.
fun.
yeah. I was even able to hit the gong at 185 yards. Yeah.
With a slug?
Hey, Squib, you want to have a
With a
pumpkin
rifled slug.
soup?
But because if I miss, I can always run up and bash it with the butt of the shotgun.
No, you need
Like
a
you did
bayonet.
this,
Now,
like you did the
when we
washing
shot up the
machine?
dryer, unlike when we shot up the dryer and I get up there to bayonet charge it and I realize, wait, I might break my bayonet. I won't break a bayonet on a pumpkin.
Well,
I always just jab it with the bayonet and then try to shoot it off of the bayonet.
Now you need what you need to do is find some way to like launch the pumpkins, like trap shooting, skeet shooting. Just launch the pumpkins into the air.
Oh, I'm sure Dusty can whip up something in that pole barn.
There you go. I've got some ideas already.
Man, I wish I could be there.
We can make a trebuchet.
A catapult.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm making a little bit of progress.
I mean,
See, we come up with all these great ideas.
What if we put black powder under a 5-gallon pail and put the pumpkin on top of the pail and blew up the black powder, launching the bucket in the air, throwing the pumpkin across our line of sight, and then we open fire on it?
Now, how about you fill the pumpkin with binary and launch it?
We can do that. We can
And
do
launch
that.
it. And make sure you have a high-speed camera.
That's what they did on the range. I didn't know that you could even get binary in this state. And one of the guys who was running the range is a retired ATF agent, and they blew up. They had the stuff hidden in a couple different pumpkins.
All right, I think I got the Irish whiskey, single malt Irish whiskey open. Sexton, man, and I'm about to do a live taste test. Live. Breaking, I don't know how many gun safety rules by doing this, but nice and smooth. Nice and smooth, but it still has a little bit of a bite to it. I like it. But I'm easy when it comes to good whiskey. But this one's nice.
You're not breaking any safety rules. You're in your own house. You're good.
The night is young.
I've never understood how whiskey can be smooth.
But you just keep triple distilling. You just keep distilling it over and over to get all the acetones out.
If you get cheap whiskey and it's a little too harsh, just add some water to it.
You have it on the rocks. That'll usually do it. But this is nice. I'll recommend this one. I mean, my Glenlivet is still my favorite, but this is pretty damn good.
All right, compared to Crown Royal, that's one Sexton. I know.
Oh, Crown Royal is not single malt. I mean, I like Crown Royal, but it's not single malt. Right?
Okay. What about Evan Williams?
I haven't tried that one.
Well, that's a cheap one that I like.
Well, you like Jack, though, right? I haven't had the gentleman's Jack. I haven't had the gentleman's Jack yet, but you like Jack, just regular, straight old.
No, I don't like Jack.
I thought you said you liked number 7.
Nope. I like Seagram's, but I don't like Jack.
Huh. Okay, well.
Jack Daniels is okay. I mean, I don't see there's nothing wrong with it. Gentleman Jack's just a little bit smoother. That's all.
Yeah, it's an extra. They distill it an extra time for to get all the extra acetones, so we get more acetones out of it.
No, I like Jim Beam.
I haven't tried that. I have a bottle. I haven't cracked it. I'm not gonna. I bought because I saw all the commercials for the Jim Beam Black extra aged in some kind of a wood cask. I forget what kind, charred wood. It's the bottle's in the other room, but I haven't cracked it yet. It's on my list of things to do. They said it won the some contest for best bourbon, so that's on my list of taste tests to do on the next show. So tune in for that. Let's see.
Of course, I've spent a lot of time in Bardstown, Kentucky, too. So,
Do they serve anything besides? Wait, Jack is from Tennessee, not Kentucky. So,
yeah, well, look up Bardstown, Kentucky, and see what's made there.
I have no idea.
No, Bardstown is, and what's funny is Bardstown is dry, but as soon as you get outside of town, up on the hill, there's a liquor store, and people are buying that crap by the case. I think they're taking it back to the trailer park and selling it.
Hey, we haven't had her here in a long time.
Who's here?
Oklahoma Prepper.
That's a guy, not a girl.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thinking of
Oily.
Oily.
Yeah, no, Oklahoma. Do you identify as? It's a brave new world, man.
No,
I don't
Oily
know.
hasn't been here for a long time. You're right. I'm sorry, Oklahoma.
Yeah, all right. I just thought I'd turn the camera on so you can see the manly beard.
Hey, tactical beard, man.
Exactly.
So,
Camo too.
wait.
Heck yeah,
Camo-
it's hunting season.
Camo beard? Did you paint your beard like with Krylon or something? I mean, wait a minute.
It's not a bad idea.
I got to see this. Yeah, that looks kind of, well, you've got like some kind of mossy oak camo thing, but it's, yeah, you just need to paint your beard to match. Get a couple cans
know,
of
right?
Krylon and you'll be good to go.
Thought about getting that hunting makeup and doing that in my beard.
Well, you could just get a face mask, but then you'd lose the beard.
I've got one, but it's more for warmer weather.
What's it like there in
Yeah.
Oklahoma?
It is 31, and we've had some flurries today, but nothing I can't handle. I love cold weather.
I don't. I'm so used to warm weather at this point. I'm like spoiled. Okay, I want to do a quick Second Amendment update because I got this from the FPC. Let's see, Bill HR House Resolution 7115 gun parts ban. Sponsor Representative Cologne, Democrat, New Jersey, District 6. This bill would not only outlaw home gunsmithing, but also ban unfinished receivers, handgun frames, i.e. 80% lower receivers. It doesn't even make the distinction between upper and lowers. Secondly, more importantly, the bill also would ban broadly defined assault weapon part kits and machine gun parts kits. According to this bill's definition, assault weapon part kit means any part or combination of parts designed and intended to assemble a semi-automatic assault weapon. In other words, this bill could ban triggers, springs, bolts, barrels, grips, stocks, you name it. Okay, so stuff like this, I mean, we're going to get a lot of it from the House. Hopefully it doesn't make it through the Senate. But I wanted to talk for a moment about a comment that somebody left on last week's show in the comment section, the only comment. And it was like, it was basically, hey, how come the Second Amendment and community on YouTube didn't organize a Get Out the Vote campaign? Shame, shame, shame. Like, we didn't do our job? Wait a minute.
You're kidding, right?
That's what he said.
At the end of every show I've been on for the past 2 weeks prior to election, everybody's saying, get out and vote, get out and vote. I know that you don't like people don't vote on midterms, but we need this is and everybody says the same thing, and I don't like it. I know why they say it, but I don't like it. This is the most important vote of our lifetime. Really? I thought the last one was. No, wait, it was the one before that. They're all important. I don't like it when they say this is the most important one.
It's what I responded was it's the people on YouTube and Gun Channel. They just all we can do is raise awareness. It's the listeners who can actually do something.
There were people that made Get Out and Vote videos. And there were people saying it at the end of their shows, saying, don't forget to vote.
I guess nobody showed up at his house to drive him to the polls or something. I don't know what this guy's RH. I looked at his YouTube channel, and it was just all he had on his YouTube channel was like a playlist of music, and that's it.
Well, here's the thing, HBS. I didn't say it on our show because I've heard so many other people say it, and personally, I get sick of hearing it. I go to vote. I don't think it should be mandatory that you should have to vote. I think that it's your civic duty as a citizen to vote, but if you don't, you don't. And some people couldn't vote because they had moved or they, had other things going on. Yeah, you can file an absentee ballot, but
that's what I do. I get my
ballots mailed to me. If something comes up and you have unforeseen plans, that isn't going to work because you've only got so much time to do that. And I don't think you should be able to file an absentee ballot at the last minute for no reason at all other than you're lazy. But besides all that, I just didn't want to say it because I get sick of hearing it. So if you want, I'll take the hit on that one.
You don't have to take the hit.
Yeah.
What I tried to explain was when we had like the whole green tips protest going, and it wasn't the people on gun channels or the NRA or the GOA that made it happen. They came after the battle was already over. Okay, and what back when everybody wanted to know about what was going on with green tips, all I had to do was start a live stream and put green tips in the title, and I would have like 1,000 viewers before I did anything, and it was because there was interest on the internet about it. That was a search term that people were using, and so yeah, if I just did like a video once of just me looking through like online ammo retailers, like ammo. I don't even remember what they all are, but it was just that me scrolling through and seeing what was available and what was in stock on the ammo search engines websites, and it was dumb, but I would get like 1,000 viewers, and somebody does comment, "This is the most dumb video." It's like, I know. But the point was that it wasn't me; it was everybody was interested in it. And they just flooded the ATF fax machines with letters saying "Don't ban green tips." So it wasn't the people on YouTube; it wasn't gun channels. It was everybody typing green tips in the fucking search engine.
So then what happened this time around with bump stocks, and what happened with some of this other stuff? I don't know. What's the difference between then and now? Just too many noobs that are in the 2A community, or?
No, it's just people. It didn't catch on fire like the green tips did.
That's just like Michigan. The proposals that we had in Michigan are going to kill Michigan right now.
Yeah, they are.
We passed that you can go vote with nothing more than ID, and we also legalized marijuana, which was totally stupid. And, if we could push Detroit in the river, the state would be a whole lot better off.
But we voted to give Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Lansing more voting power than the rest of the state. That was one of the things I prided myself on.
Well, where am I supposed to?
We don't give the three biggest cities control of the state. Well, they voted to give them control, so we're no better than Illinois or California or Massachusetts. I mean, it's just
anything's better than California.
But if you look at the results, Squib, areas like mine, my county voted 100% against all those. And 90% of Michigan voted that way, except for Detroit and those
You know why?
cities.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't have passed. The way our system's set up, then it wouldn't have passed. I have a feeling that you had a bunch of people that never voted before and never wanted to vote, never cared, never gave two shits, and then they go, what? Pot's on the ballot? Oh, hell, register me to vote. I'll vote in pot. And so they clicked yes on pot. And then the next two, they just go, I don't know what these are, but I'll just vote yes. That's honestly what I think happened. Is because they put it in there to bait all these new voters who don't give a shit about anything because they just sit around getting stoned all the time. And I've had a bunch of people go up my ass over this saying, oh no, it's not about getting stoned all the time. It's about, having a couple joints in your car and not going to jail. Well, I don't think you should go to jail for a couple joints. And I don't think you should go to jail for having a small bag of weed. I don't think you should go to jail if you're a dumb kid and you experiment with it. But they didn't put it on the ballot like if you're caught with a small amount or, I don't know, first time offender. They didn't put in, they just went right for the throat. They just went in there and they said, you can have a butt ton of weed and you can have a butt ton of plants.
Well,
and
when
it's like,
Jeff,
no,
when
you
Jeff-
got to introduce this. If you want to, you got to introduce this gradually. That's all. My big thing is
they're going to put THC in Coca-Cola.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can put it in stuff that you wouldn't find nicotine in, right? So kids are going to have more access to it because it's going to be in damn gummy bears and shit, okay? But the thing is, you're going to have a lot more people that are going to pop on their drug test at work because the government says it's legal, but your employer still says it's illegal. The way I feel about the marijuana law is the same way as if they said, let's lower the drinking age to 15. Let's lower the cigarette age to 8. I'd be against that. So I'm against the marijuana thing for the same reason. Not because I want my friends to go to jail because they got 3 joints in a wooden box in their glove box and they happen to get pulled over for speeding and they decided to search the car. That ain't, no, I think that should be, they should confiscate your shit, write you a ticket, send you on your way. Whatever. But that's
what they do in Oklahoma. It's gotten so bad that they don't want to jail anybody over that stuff because there's so many people in jail there's just so many people in jail. Oklahoma has the highest rate for jailing anybody for anything. So they put it to the point
where... ridiculous. It's ridiculous to jail somebody for having a little bit of it. Having enough to distribute means you're a dealer. That's a different thing. Making enough to distribute is the same as dealing it, as opposed to making it just for personal use.
Yeah, the only time
thing is you can lace that shit. You can put it in stuff that kids can get a hold of that they think is candy, and you can lace that shit with stronger stuff. So I think they need to have provisions in there about giving it to a minor or about lacing it with something else if you're going to make it legal. But they didn't do any of that.
I understand why employers don't want employees doing it. I mean, I had an experience, more than one, with that. Basically I may have to make a hard rule, like anybody shows up to my recording studio to work on a film that's stoned, and they're never going to work in this town again. And so, I mean, I had it out with I basically almost just, I had like people threatening to sue me because I said, okay, this guy's stoned, get him the hell out of the studio. And it wasn't my employee, it was somebody else. It was the studio's employee. And he denied being stoned. I mean, I could smell it on his breath. And so, it was just, you don't do that. If I'm making $15,000 a week and you want to show up stoned, fuck you.
I'm not even in favor of people operating heavy equipment under certain medications. But those medications are prescribed by a doctor, and a doctor will say, don't drive with this, or don't drive a forklift with this, or don't work from heights with this. These people, if you show up stoned to work on one of my films, you aren't going to get a fair trial. You're going to get an immediate execution. And it's I'm just gonna, it's like you're gone, and I don't care if it smelled like weed, but just get the fuck out,
You know, whatever it was, get the fuck out. And
I
I'll
got
find
people-
somebody else to take your place. And of course, I was wound up firing people that weren't actually working for me. But
See, that's the thing. Where I used to work in Oilfield, half these people that came in would be on some kind of medication prescribed. Yet, I'm doing oilfield work. I'm building oilfield equipment. These people, I mean, yeah, the doctor will tell you you can't operate heavy machinery while you're taking this medication. But do they go and tell their boss that? No, because their boss is going to put them on, either lay them off until they're off the medication, or put them on light duty. And 90% of the people that I worked with were on some kind of medication, some kind of
if anybody
what the
got
state
in
would
the way,
classify as a narcotic.
from my perspective, anybody that got in between me and my $15,000 a week paycheck was instantly fired. I would run them out of the fucking industry.
Well, I got people arguing
Here's
with
another
me saying,
situation.
go ahead.
Part of the reason I'm working so hard is because we cannot hire anybody that can pass a drug test. All the interviews we have had the past couple weeks, we send them for a drug test and they test positive. So, do you want to put somebody that cannot pass a drug test in a semi? Do you want to put them in a tractor? You know, that's why I'm in a tractor and I'm in a semi a lot lately.
Well, I got people arguing with me saying liquor is just as bad as, if not worse. Really? I can drink all night, go to work the next morning, and I'm totally fine. And if you want to have me pee in a bottle, they ain't going to find no alcohol in it. So tell me.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
all
one
I know
thing.
is
The
that,
other thing is whether you're drunk on the job, high on the job, from whatever. I don't care. I don't want you around me. I also don't want you operating a vehicle. And I got people saying, oh, no, you could drive stoned. You can operate a gun stoned. You can do all this stuff. Because when you're stoned, you're just mellow. You just laugh a lot and you're mellow, whereas alcohol makes you violent and angry. And being stoned clears your mind so you focus more. It's like, look, you know what? The people I've seen that are stoned, okay, were so out of it, they didn't know jack shit. They were just, they didn't give a fuck about anything.
It makes
you just haven't seen the people who handle it well. Okay, well, I guess I haven't. I'm not saying you can't do it at home. I'm not saying you can't go to a party and do it. I'm not saying you can't take it from your house to your cabin up north. I don't agree with putting somebody in jail for having a couple joints or whatever. I don't. I think you should just ticket them, take their drugs, send them on their way. It's a waste of resources. But people are accusing me of saying, I want everybody who has a joint on them to go to jail. And I never said that. Never.
One guy showed up, was hired by one of the dubbing language contractors that I used to work with, and he was stoned. Basically, the pressure was getting to him. He showed up sober, and the pressure was getting to him. In the middle of the session, he goes out, smokes a joint, comes back in, and then after that, every loop that anybody did, he thought it was great. It was like, awesome, man, awesome, next loop, awesome. And it was like nobody. It was like his judgment was just shot to hell. He wouldn't know if they were actually speaking the language they were supposed to. It was. All I know is for me, it was a money thing. It was like send them to Siberia or something. Just keep them the hell away from me and my films, because I want that $15,000 check. I mean, it was great while it lasted. I mean, those days are gone. But for me,
people are going to do it no matter what, HBS, whether it's illegal or it's legal. But when the government says it's okay, now you're going to have people who wouldn't have done it before that are probably going to do it. You're also going to have people who are going to say, well, the government says it's legal. And like I said, you're going to have problems when an employer like you says, no, you can't do that stuff. And you're going to have your employee argue that it's legal, and you're just going to run into issues. And then like Dusty's saying, you're still going to have labor issues.
Right. Well, I was threatened with lawsuits and stuff, and I said, okay, you want to sue me, take a ticket and stand in line, but get the fuck away from my film. I never want to see your face again, and I'm going to tell everyone about you so you never get another job in this fucking town. You know,
That's why I think that if they want to introduce it in a way that's going to get more support from everybody, of course, they got enough support from the potheads, so whatever. But more is if they gradually, okay, if you're caught with 3 joints or less, you just get a fine. And then 2 years later, they change it to if you're caught with half an ounce or whatever, then you just get a, you know what? And eventually they legalize it, or they go, okay, it's legal. However, just like cigarettes, you can't smoke at a restaurant here.
Let me explain
they did so much stuff to stop people from being able to smoke cigarettes.
Let me explain
to you. It's okay to go smoke a joint. It's just like, what the fuck, man?
It's like, there's so much hypocritical about it. I mean, but it's like, if I got to tell you from my perspective, I used to run this recording studio in Burbank, right? And so like, who like pick a recording act that you think would probably all the artists were stoned the whole time, like rap artists, right? So if the manager of a rap act comes into my studio to book a bunch of time, I mean, this was like when I first started and I did that shit the first year. Thank God I got out of it. But I mean, if anybody came into my studio and I was like, they smelled weed, they just say, you know, have a nice day and be out the door, and them and their money would walk. And I'm talking about people that smoke weed themselves. It's just like, you don't do things if you're a professional. You don't act that way if you're a professional. And
yes, but really, that's gone in Michigan. I mean, as far as I can read, we've passed. You can smoke it; it don't matter. We have no laws now to comprehend something like that.
I didn't need the law. I was in charge of the money. So it was
the other thing, though, is if you've told your kid his whole life, hey, stay off drugs, and if they start giving you a bunch of bullshit about how safe it is, and you go, it's illegal, now they can go, fuck you, Mom, fuck you, Dad. I don't like that. You just undermined 18 years worth of raising a kid.
Exactly, Squib.
Yes. Now, I still don't think that if you're a dumb kid and you get caught with a little bit of stuff or some paraphernalia, that you should get arrested, go to jail, or any of that shit. I think they should give you a literal slap on the wrist for it. If you're a kid selling it in the school, get him the fuck over in juvie, because now he's selling it to all the other kids. There's a big difference. And some of the people that were arguing with me, telling me, you want me to go to jail because I've got a joint on me, but selling it's bad. They apparently agree that the distributors should be prosecuted, but the people who are using it shouldn't. And all I said was stuff like, you're undermining parenting and you're encouraging this and you're doing that. I never said, let's arrest everybody who's got so much as one flake of fucking oregano on them. You know what I mean? But people are going to the nth degree. They get very defensive over that. And it's like, wait a minute. Cigarettes and alcohol aren't enough. And prescription drugs your doctor will give you when you tell him you don't feel good aren't enough. You need this shit too. And even then, you could say, well, you can get prescription drugs, say you've got an ailment, and then you can turn around and sell them because you're not really sick and you want to make money. So that isn't even really controlled too. And just because alcohol is legal doesn't mean people don't drink and drive or show up to work drunk. I understand that. All I'm saying is that this creates more problems, and there's so many different ways for you to deal with, if you're that messed up that you need something to be able to deal with your life. There's so many other things out there. Do we really need one more? Also, the way I feel about the Second Amendment, or the way I feel about guns, is weapons are in the Constitution. Weapons are that is why I am pro 2A. If the right to bear arms was not in the Constitution, I might not be standing up for gun rights the way I do. Alcohol is in the Constitution twice. Drugs are in there nowhere. So I feel the same way about alcohol as I do guns, because it's constitutional. I'm not saying that my way it works for everybody else, but that's the way I look at it. I don't want to argue with my friends who like to get high but say they don't do drugs, but they're passionate that we make drugs legal. I don't want to argue with them. But it's just like, guys, like they slipped this shit in here, and now all of a sudden you had Democratic votes that you would have never got if this law wasn't on the ballot. And now the next time around, because of those other two laws, the Democrats are going to win everything in this state from here on out.
Well, let me
Yes.
ask you guys this, because you're all
And-
parents. You're all parents. So how would you feel if somebody tried to sell your kid drugs, marijuana?
I'd kick their ass.
I don't care if they sold them the happy pills out of grandma's medicine cabinet. I don't like it.
Exactly.
The same way is if when my kids turn 21, if they're still living at home and they want to drink, you're 21 now. You can drink. Until you're 21, you can't have a drink. If you start drinking every day and now you're late to work, you don't go to work, you go to work drunk, you get a DUI, you get fired from your job because you're drunk. Now you got a problem. Now there ain't no more drinking in my house. If you don't like it, move the fuck out and get a place of your own. But when you can't pay your bills because you're hooked on something, I don't care what it is, don't come to me because I'm not bailing your ass out. So, you know, for me to go, okay, you can't drink.
It's
You know,
it's like
I mean,
this.
I can't control if they decide to leave the house and go drink.
Here's what
And they
worked
can
for
get
me.
arrested for that. They can get arrested for that. But
Look,
now they
here's what-
can't get arrested for marijuana, so they'll go ahead and go do that.
I hate to interrupt a good rant, but here's what worked for me. I mean, when I was in college, I smoked a couple of joints. And when I was in high school, I smoked way too many joints. But when I started a business, all that shit ended. I mean, I mean, you can't show up stoned and run up and so you need to find something else that you're passionate about except getting stoned, whatever it is in your life. I mean, hopefully you can find a job that you like, but most people don't have to find a job that just work that they get paid for. But find something in life that you're passionate about, and then that can take the place of like that burn. If there's like this pain in your soul somehow, marijuana isn't going to help. But if you find something that you're passionate about, it'll keep you busy. It worked for me. It worked for me.
People turn to that. They turn to that the same way they get drunk to handle it. There's a difference between going to a party and getting drunk because you're having a good time. There's a difference between going to a party and smoking a couple joints because you're having a good time. And then there's the people that from the time they get up to the time they go to bed, they're drunk, they're high, they're whatever. They're abusing it, no matter what it is.
Yeah,
Squib kind of really touched on the point that bugs me. Michigan put that on the ballot this year, and guess what it brought out? It brought out all the Democratic voters that want to smoke pot, and they don't really care about politics. All they want to do is smoke their pot. And
they did it in the
meantime,
midterms when nobody showed up and there weren't enough conservative votes out there to counter stuff like the governor and things like that, the senators and stuff like that.
We ended up with a Democratic governor and a senator that is nothing but shit to be elected.
I know how that feels, guys. I mean,
And-
Macy
and
Hirono won
it's not-
70% to 30%. You know, it's like
It's not that we've never had a Democratic governor before, but this one is proud of the fact that she's anti-gun. So,
But she's going to fix our roads.
Let me step in real quick. I don't think that has any, and I'm just speaking for Oklahoma because obviously I don't know what goes on in the other state. But let me step in on the whole thing about voting marijuana in, and then now we have an entire Democratic state. That is absolutely untrue. In Oklahoma, they legalized medical marijuana, and they're planning on legalizing it for recreational use here in Oklahoma as well. This entire state voted straight red. And of course, that's not the marijuana thing is not a Republican thing or a Democrat. It's obviously a Democrat thing. But see, here's my stance on it personally. And this, my opinion comes from my experience in law enforcement. These guys that I went to arrest for marijuana, for possession, or for being public intox on it, whatever, I would ask them. I'd ask them every one of them, the same question. Do you have anything I need to know about? Because if you tell me now, your chances of going home tonight go way up compared to me finding it. And 99.999% of the time they say, "Yeah, man, I got a joint on me, and I would take it out, throw it on the ground, and I would step on it and smush it into the concrete or whatever. And I'd be like, "Sorry, man, you lost your stuff, but guess what? You get to go home." Because every one of those guys that I've ever arrested for that, or even made contact with, that were high on marijuana, were like, "You got me. Here we go. Let's go to jail, man. I'm good. Go. Let's go." I finally got to the point to where it's like, there's no point in sending these people to jail because the only thing they're a threat to. Now, the guy that shot me, the guys that pulled guns on me and knives on me, the ones that tried to kill me are the ones that had meth on them. Those are the ones that are a threat to anybody. So that's my personal opinion on it. And I don't ever hardly ever even talk about marijuana. I didn't vote. I didn't vote on that subject specifically because I was not allowed to vote in that for that ballot in June, and that's because of how when I was in high school I signed my voter's registration ballot or my voter's registration application. But now I'm changing that. But anyways, regardless of how it turned out, I wouldn't have cared either way because if they legalize it in Oklahoma and tax the piss out of it, that's going to help out our debt situation a lot. That's my personal thing on it because a lot more people than you can ever imagine smoke marijuana. For example, I know several people
but if
that
that
work
was
in
true,
hospitals.
Colorado would be the richest state in the union, and that's not true.
Well, I mean, their debt problem is a lot less than it has been, and
That's probably because it's cheaper to buy it on the street than it is to buy it from wherever they tax it.
Let me ask you this about Oklahoma, because there's a lot of Native American Indian tribes in Oklahoma, right? And my understanding was that like alcohol is like considered the new Custer to the Indians because it really just devastates a lot of people. Alcoholism is a problem in the Indian territory.
I think a lot of that has to do with there's still tribal members across the country, and I'm not gonna lump Oklahoma just because we're Oklahoma, but there are still reservations, Indian reservations in the U.S. right now that have no electricity. I think the whole drinking thing has a lot to do with that. I mean, these people get stressed out. They don't have electricity. I understand that. They have nothing better to do than sit around and drink beer. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I mean, what do I do on a Friday night or something? If my friends are home, I'll go out and hang out with them and drink a couple beers. But I mean, all night long, I've been sitting here hanging out with my girlfriend, just hanging out. I mean, but I think a lot of the alcoholism in tribal members has to do with the fact that they're, no matter what, I mean, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian. I'm not racist at all. I'm Mexican, and I can tell you the funniest Mexican joke that I know. But I think that what really, when everybody pulls out this card, well, I was a slave. There's people out there. There's entire reservations that are still neglected from the government to this day, and I think a lot of that has to do with where alcoholism and tribal communities come from. Now, as far as marijuana in tribal facilities, for example, casinos, just because it's legalized in the state, the casino property or any tribal property is still federal property. It is not state property. It is federal property. It is tribal property. It is sovereign territory. And so that being said, federal law trumps state law on Indian territory. So even though that medical marijuana is legal in Oklahoma, even if it was legalized on a state level as, you know, for recreational use, it would still be illegal to consume marijuana in, for example, the casino or wherever, because for the simple fact that it's still federal property, it's still federal territory, not state property.
Why am I blocked from my own external text? All right. I haven't figured that one out.
And one other point that I will make on Michigan, I have a friend that is an electrical inspector on the other side of the state. And once Michigan made it legal for medical marijuana, he has had to investigate more electrical fires than he ever had in his life, which part of the reason is because growers would start up growing and not update their electrical services, which, running the heat lamps and everything has a major draw on your electrical. But a lot of places in his area have burned down because of that problem.
That's I'm glad you, because that brought me that reminded me of something I was going to talk about earlier. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think about a week ago, the first large scale growing facility in the state of Oklahoma, which is near me, actually caught fire the other day and destroyed everything inside.
Yeah, and that's what he has found in his area as an electrical inspector. He's had, I don't know how many he told me the other day he had. He's had a lot of them. So that's another issue to deal with it.
There's going to be issues come up with, anything from electrical to, you name it, it's going to be a problem. But that's when people get so, my opinion would be, and this is just speculation and opinion, would be that people are so excited that they can finally grow 10 plants of marijuana and don't know how to do it, and then all of a sudden start plugging in all these grow lights and hydroponic systems and whatever other systems that they use to grow marijuana, and don't realize that now that their house is under an entirely different load on a more continual basis, and now these people are getting their houses burned down.
Yep. Of course, maybe that's what I ought to do with my farm, right? Maybe I should start growing marijuana.
Well, I actually, a friend of my family actually does that. A friend of my family actually does that, and professionally in California. So, and he just, it's not, he's not somebody that you would think would do that, but it's just a business to him. He runs a lot of different businesses, and
corn and soybeans aren't that profitable right now. Maybe I ought to grow marijuana.
Well, here's what happened: what you ought to have done is started a corporation and then try and get traded on the stock exchange. Because this week, or was it last week? Last week when Jeff Sessions was out, Jeff Sessions was very anti-marijuana, and then when he was out, like all the marijuana stocks just took off to the moon. Tilray, that Canadian one, and obviously Coca-Cola wants to start making a product with Coca-Cola and THC in it. So, and all the marijuana stocks went to the moon, and it was just ridiculous, hyperbolic stock chart for all those companies.
But then you go back to, could I actually do that? And I would say no, because I'm so opposed to it. So I would lose money versus doing something like that.
The people that I've argued with say that more people do it for fun, that it truly is recreational. Okay, I get that. And people drink for a good time too. And some people get to the point where they're drinking for more than just a good time. They're drinking to cover up bad feelings. And they become an alcoholic, and they're drinking all the time. They're showing up to work drunk. They're functioning alcoholics, whatever. And the same thing happens with marijuana. So if somebody wants to look at it from that standpoint, one is no better than the other than passing a drug test or how fast it metabolizes or blah, 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 blah. The people who defend it, though, rigorously, the people that are so passionate about defending it are the ones that are saying they just do it for a good time. They don't do it because they're hooked on it. Okay, if you're just doing it for a good time, why are you defending it so much, especially since it hasn't been legal up to now? So I'm just not buying that. So if you want to come at me from that angle of, I'm just having fun, and you're trying to take away my fun, wait a minute. You said before you weren't doing it because it's illegal. Oh, but now that it's legal, suddenly I'm taking away. It's like, no. There's more to it than that. I would respect somebody more if they said, yeah, I do this stuff all the time, and I just don't want to go to jail for it. And okay, so be it. Then that's what it really is. That's fine. But to say, oh, I just, I don't do it, but I've tried it, or it's just fun, or
I didn't inhale.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's like, come on.
Shut up, Clinton.
And also, I don't buy that it doesn't lead to harder drugs.
Well, that's just it. I've seen some people kind of grow out of it. They get older, they have kids, they start becoming responsible, and they go, I don't need to do this. Just like maybe they stop going to the bar like they used to do and stuff like that. So some people do kind of grow out of it. Maybe every now and then at a party, somebody lights one up and they take a couple hits or whatever, they pass it around or whatever because they did this stuff in the past, but they don't end up, packing up their car with it and going home. And I don't have a problem with that. The same thing with drinking socially, but making sure you've got a designated driver or something like that, doing stuff that's responsible. And people get that with age. And some people, like I said, they just grow out of it no matter what it is. And then you've got other people that maybe they don't have something responsible in their life or something. I don't know what it is, but they end up out of control. I don't think you should judge the person who's responsible by the actions of the person who's irresponsible. But there's just, for me and the way I was brought up and the way I try to bring up my kids, there's just too many issues with this. And I had a liberal recently tell me, you shouldn't vote against it because it affects you and your family. You should vote for it because it's for the greater good. And it's like, wait a minute. You're telling me that every time I vote in an election, I need to vote for somebody else's rights, not what I want? Where the hell do you get that from?
I don't understand how making weed legal is like the greater good. but
yeah, what is the greater good?
Well,
so you're telling me that when a senator from your state wants to try to keep jobs in your state or wants to try to get new jobs in your state, he doesn't vote for something that's going to bring some sort of government contract to your state and create jobs or keep the jobs that are already there. He's going to go, well, they can do it cheaper in another state, so I should give my vote to them. No, hell no, he's going to vote for your state. That's what you elected him for. It's the same thing. When you go to that ballot, you vote for the politician or for the ballot proposal that best affects your family and yourself. You can't speak. If you have no opinion on it, you don't know who to vote for. You don't know what to vote for. Maybe you do go to your friend and go, hey, Joe, I don't know what to vote for. Who you vote for? I'll just vote for you. But otherwise, though, if you're informed on the topic, you should vote with what is most important to your family and yourself, not to what's somebody on the other side of the state that you don't know. What sort of, well, that's the way a liberal thinks, I guess.
Okay, Squib, I need to change the topic to something that's important, but that I got to ask because you guys are veterans. Well, at least you are. Okay, the last shooting in Thousand Oaks, that was near my parents' home. They said he was a former Marine in Helmand, stationed in Helmand, Afghanistan, Helmand province in Afghanistan. And what we talked about on Jared's live stream last night, one of the things was is do military people, when they get discharged, get any out processing counseling if they were in a hot combat zone, just to deal with to help them adjust to civilian life? Because I mean, obviously, being in a hot combat zone like Helmand Province was, that kind of messes with your mind. So, do military people get the counseling they need when they get discharged?
You get counseling while you're on active duty if you have something go wrong on active duty.
So if you say get busted for a DUI, you go to what they call JDAC, Joint Drug and Alcohol Dependency Counseling. Or if you got caught with weed,
get off of the weed and alcohol. I mean, I'm just dealing with combat.
You asked me a question. Do you want the answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if you get caught with a substance, you go to counseling. If you're on active duty, you may get discharged for having that substance, but you get counseling. If you're in country and you go through some traumatic thing, or even if you have something traumatic happen while you're on base or on a ship or something like that, you might be able to go see the shrink if you ask, and he's available while you're on active duty. But if you're getting discharged, they don't follow up with that, and they usually don't discharge you because you say you're all stressed out from PTSD and stuff like that. Okay, they don't look at it the same way they do as if you were drunk at a party. And that's kind of dumb because some people don't deal with that stuff well. Some people don't. First off, they may not want to talk to anybody. They may not know who they're supposed to talk to. And then if you're going through this and nobody's really helping you, or you're staying silent, and then you get discharged, it's not like you can go back to the VA and go, hey, I don't feel so good. They're like, get the fuck out of here. So they'll address one problem while you're on active duty, but they don't really address another. Now, that's not to say there aren't things you can do. Like, you can go talk to the chaplain. That would be something I would do. And the chaplain might be able to refer you to something or help get a hold of your command and go, look, this Marine's in trouble. We need to get him, to see the psychologist over at the Naval Hospital or something like that. Because they do have those. And to some extent, they can prescribe some psychiatric drugs while you're on active duty. Now, they may put you on limited duty or something, where you're on these drugs and now you're not working on aircraft. But if you ain't working on aircraft and that's your job, they may discharge you. And then once they discharge you, they're not going to follow up on it. So it's up to you to keep your medical records and to go find a doctor on the civilian side and go, hey, doc, I had PTSD. They prescribed me this. I couldn't do my job. And I got general under honorable. And, the doctor could follow up and go, okay, we're going to keep you on these meds. We can do this. We can do that. But if you get out and you don't do that, then it's on you. You know what I mean?
I want to just interject something that I was listening to the Fox Veterans show yesterday, and it was a bunch of veterans around a table on Fox News just talking. And what I found interesting was that, like, one of the veterans, they had people from all the different branches, and he said that when he got home after 1 week of trying to sort his kids' laundry out and matching up the socks and everything, he wanted to go back to combat. He couldn't handle like just doing laundry for his children, and it's like, okay, so it's just the question that I'm asking is how hard is it to adjust to civilian life after like intense combat?
It's not that. Okay, you're at work. You're under a lot of stress. Your boss is an asshole. Your coworkers are assholes. Everybody's assholes, and you're under a whole lot of stress. And you've got to pay the bills. You've got to keep this job. You've got to keep the benefits, and then you got to go home and deal with the family every single day, day in, day out, day in, day out. And if you get mad, if you yell, if you call somebody a name, you do whatever just to let it out, to get it out. Not only let these people know that you think they're assholes, but also just to get it out so you don't bottle it in. You could get fired. The difference between that and combat is, in combat, you just kill the motherfuckers. Honestly. Okay? So that person at work that you really want to call an asshole, or you really want to go have a fist fight with behind the building, or you really just want to go tell them to go F themselves or whatever, in combat, you just shoot them dead. And that doesn't mean the Marine next to you or the soldier next to you. That means the enemy. At work, the people you work with sometimes are as bad in your mind as the enemy. The only thing is, you have to work with these people. Your boss is the biggest asshole in the world. He's like the enemy. Okay, it's not like your NCO in the military, or officers, or it's not the same thing. In the military, you had structure and you had organization, and yes, some people were assholes, and yes, there are some things that some of the management styles, or some of the things about being in the military is almost like a civilian job. The difference is, though, that the people you worked with and the people that were in charge of you, it's a little bit different. Whereas in the civilian world, you can almost look at your coworkers as the enemy. Well, if your coworkers are rioting you and it pisses you off, you can't kill them. But if the enemy is harassing you, you just shoot back. That's the appeal of combat.
Well, hold on. Was this guy a rifleman, or was he a pogue?
He was a automatic machine. He was a machine gunner.
What does that mean?
Okay.
I mean, what type of company was he with? Was he like sitting somewhere in an air-conditioned room, or?
He was in combat. He had a combat ribbon machine gunner from Afghanistan, Helmand Province.
And that's all
I'm
you
not
know.
going to chalk this one up to this whole PTSD, all veterans are psycho bullshit.
No,
because
that's what I'm saying, because he's probably the guys who
You-
go off on this type of shit, and the people who embellish this shit are usually like the people who never left the wire.
Right.
Every
right.
time I've ever
Oh.
heard about people ragging this shit and playing it up are people who never did shit, and who are like, dude, people tried to kill me every day I was alive. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you never left the DFAC.
Yeah.
What are you
It's like
talking
every
about?
every sailor was a Navy SEAL, right? And every soldier was an Army Ranger, and every Marine was a sniper.
Now, I'm not
That's a
talking
loaded
about
shit.
that, because there are people who did get their fucking asses blown up and who are fucked up. But I've never once heard those people like do over the top shit. And to me, the way I feel or perceive, which could be complete bullshit, is that this is like someone who went over the top. You know, this was like the one man fucking hero, and he had to just, show everybody how it's not working. And then he might have just been someone who wasn't okay in the head too. But I mean,
Right. You're saying this wasn't the whole, he claimed to be something more than what he was, or that sort of thing. It was that he just didn't deal with it, and there's other people that saw worse than he did that are dealing with it, kind of like what I was talking about. You seek the same sort of treatment after you get discharged because they don't follow up. You do it on your own due diligence, the things they taught you in the military, like how to take care of yourself. And he
Yeah.
didn't do that.
yeah. Well, I mean, either that or, I mean, and like I said, like some of these people I know, I'm not going to say that these people would commit mass shootings, but the people who I described are very over the top, like he is, with how they talk about it and how they immediately, as soon as they got out, they immediately claimed PTSD, went straight to the VA. Oh, I'm all fucked up. I need help. I need this. I need that.
Well, here's what I want to ask you guys. The military sends you guys and sends our military people into hot combat zones, and it messes with their minds. It seems to me that they would have some responsibility to help like deprogram them and help them reintegrate, readjust to civilian life again, because it was the government that sent them there. Am I right or wrong, or
a lawyer might argue that. A lawyer might argue that. A politician might argue that. But the military doesn't look at it like that. Like I said, they put more effort into if you have a drinking problem. Maybe even then they still discharge you, and afterward they don't do nothing. It's kind of like that guy who shot up that church in Texas, and they didn't follow up with reporting him to NICS.
Or even fat. If you're overweight, the world is coming down on you, bro.
Yeah.
But if you were ready to go shoot up a fucking bar, you're good to go.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, it also depends on who's in office. If there's a Republican in office, the military usually grows and has a bigger budget. When a Democrat's in office, they cut. When they do those cuts, they cut all kinds of stuff, like support for you while you're in, or they just cut your job short and you're out. And it's like, wait a minute, I wasn't doing anything wrong. It don't matter. It's a numbers game. So you might get in trouble when there's
Dusty's moving stuff around. I'm gonna mute him really quick. Go ahead.
I was crinkling potato chip bags earlier, but anyhow, if the budget is good and they're not discharging people and they're growing the military, and you get in some sort of trouble, they might just give you a slap on the wrist. Maybe they'll demote you a rank. Maybe they'll do this, they'll do that. But you're back in action and you're good to go. And then there's other people that don't hardly do something that would be considered a minor infraction, and they're out because there's somebody in office that's cutting heads and they're just looking for excuses, and that'll mess with somebody's head. I know guys that went on deployment and their wives cheated on them while they were gone. That messed with their heads. We had a sergeant major. His wife and child were killed right outside the main gate when a concrete truck flipped over and crushed his car. You can tell me that didn't mess with his head? He wasn't in combat. He was sitting at his desk when it happened. I mean, there's all kinds of. You could have your best friend with you on deployment, and he drowns, or it dies in a helicopter crash, or whatever. Now you've lost your best friend, or maybe helicopter crashed and you were the only one that survived. You're going to tell me that doesn't mess with you? You don't necessarily have to get shot at to have PTSD. There are lots of things that can happen to you, and in the civilian world, PTSD, they'll sometimes use it in the case of maybe if a cop gets shot or a firefighter's in a bad situation, whatever. But otherwise, though, the types of stress that you can occur in civilian life that would create the exact same effect as PTSD. It's called panic disorder, and that is a treatable disorder. You can treat it with counseling and drugs, one or the other or both, and it's the same thing with PTSD. Once again, it's on you for your due diligence. So these people that are claiming PTSD and it ain't really that, they're making the other people that are doing something about it look bad.
I'm just trying to. I think that we're really at the heart of my question is there something that the military can do more to help vets just readjust to civilian life? Because
they don't care. They don't care. The military. Just to put it this way, I mean, there's a 40-hour course you got to take when you're getting out now, and you got to do all sorts of resumes and shit. But I knew a guy who got blown up like 4 different times in a Husky. Like, this dude was like just spooked is the best way to put him. Just really paranoid. The Husky's the thing that goes out in front, and he just wanted out of the military because he didn't want to get blown up again. And they
four times was enough, right? Yeah,
they treated him like the biggest piece of shit, like, you fat piece of shit. And it was like, this dude's been blown to bits 4 times. His truck's been almost completely destroyed, and he's a piece of shit. What?
Yeah. See, you wanna put some sort of legal responsibility on them, but that's a lawsuit thing, or that's a.
I'm just trying to get the people the help they need. I mean, I'm trying to figure out if there's something.
You want to know what? Okay, look at it like this. You're in the military. You're accountable for everything you do. You show up to work on time every day. You keep yourself in good health. You're surrounded by badasses all day long, and you've got to be a badass too. Everybody has a job to do. Now, you're going to have some people that are douchebags. You're going to have some people that take advantage of their rank. You're going to have some people that are shitbirds, and they don't pull their own weight. You're going to have some people that don't know what they were doing there, and they're doing everything they can to get out, and they're making everybody look bad. But overall, most of the people you're surrounded by are locked and cocked just like you. You get up every day on time. You shave. You make sure you keep your hair cut done right. You got your freaking uniform perfect. You go to work on time. If you've got to stay late, you stay late. If you've got to work weekends, you work weekends. If you got to go overseas and kill third world people, whatever, you go do it. Whatever the hell it is, you're away from your family. You give up, and you do it on pay that's less than somebody flipping burgers at McDonald's. And then when you get out in the civilian world, everybody thanks you for your service one day out of the year. Or if you're wearing a damn T-shirt that says Army Strong or USMC or something, but the rest of the time you look around, and these are some of the laziest pieces of shit. These are some of the biggest slobs in the world. They don't stand for anything. They hate America. They hate our flag. They've never done anything dangerous in their life. They've never stood for anything. They don't give a shit about anybody or anything other than themselves. They are nothing like the people you served with, the people that you used to eat, sleep, shit, and die with. And
Yeah, being a civilian, it's like every man for himself.
Well, and that's not to say that there weren't, guys in the military that had that mentality. But when you have a job, a 9-to-5 job, when you're done at the end of the day, you all don't go back to the same barracks and live together. You go to your individual homes, and that's not to say that there weren't some Marines that lived out in town or whatever. Those are married guys or whatever. It's just not the same. You don't all come from the same background. And when in the military, everybody comes from all over the country. And but what I mean is, once you go to boot camp, that's the starting point, and everybody has that same background. When I talk to Marines that served 40 or 50 years ago, usually the stories that come up are boot camp. A lot of guys don't talk about combat and stuff like that, but every now and then they will, or they'll talk about partying out in town and stuff like that. They talk about the good times. They don't talk about when their buddy stepped on a landmine, okay? But they all have that common stuff. In the civilian world, you don't have that garbage. You might have gone to the same college, and that's about it. And these guys aren't locked and cocked. They don't care about how they dress. They don't care about how they look. They don't show up to work on time. They don't take care of their health. There's no organization. The leaders can't lead worth a shit. They got that job for some half-ass reason. And none of these people are willing to go to the wall with you. And in the military, you didn't have that. You had very little of it. And in the civilian world, you've got the exact opposite. And what surprises me is how many times I hear the statistic that only like 3% of America or 5% of America has ever served in the military. It just blows my freaking mind. You don't speak the same language. And I'm not saying that when you get out of the military, you're locked and cocked every single day and you're walking tall and looking good and doing all the same stuff. But you still have that in you. If you took it seriously and you love it and you love this country, you still have that in you. And you go to work at your civilian job that might pay more, or you're home every night instead of being on deployment or whatever. But the people you work with are just bags of shit compared to the people you used to serve with. And it's just not the same. That is no excuse for wanting to go somewhere and kill a bunch of people because you don't have that experience anymore. But that is something that if you want to talk about adjustment, the military doesn't tell you, oh, by the way, the things that you do here that you're accountable for here, all the things we trained you, how well we taught you to look when you show up to a job interview, or how well we taught you to be accountable for your actions or learn new skills or train the people below you or lead, or none of that's going to matter anymore, because you're not going to be working with professionals anymore. You're just not. Somebody might have a college degree, or they might be the CEO of the company, but they're just not the same level of. They don't tell you that when you get out. So that would be my perspective on them getting you ready to be in the civilian world. Not so much as going, don't worry, you don't have to tell somebody that your buddy stepped on a landmine. So I mean, let me ask you.
Let me ask you this comparison of the military versus civilian. When you work for a film company, there's an old saying: as soon as you hit the gate, nobody remembers your name. Is it the same way in the military?
You're a number, but I mean, everybody's got their name on their uniform, and you get to know the guys in your unit. When you go to another unit, you don't know everybody, but you get to know. You're a number.
When you muster out, does the military follow up or care at all? I mean,
okay, I'll give you a good example. When we were overseas, we got medals because we're in 2 combat zones. And when we got home, they didn't issue the medals because they were out of stock. Supply didn't have enough of these damn things. So when I got out, it said on my service record book, all the medals I earned, but I didn't actually have them. It was less than a year later, I went back to North Carolina for work. They needed somebody to go down there and fix an issue they had with the customer, so I went down there. And on the last day, I had a long time between the time I left the factory and the time I flew out. So I took the rental car and drove back to base. And drove on to base and walked right into the hangar and walked right upstairs to admin. And I went to the guy. He had already gotten promoted, one of the lead guys. And I said, hey, any chance that those medals that they had for us, ever came in? And he said, yeah, but you don't get one. I go, what do you mean I don't get one? He goes, you're not one of us anymore. Well, really? I walked down the hallway to the Sergeant Major's office. The Sergeant Major did not like me. I went in there and talked to him, and he said, how are you doing? What's going on? And it's like, wow, this guy did not like me before, but I think he was just doing his job when he didn't like me. And he said, what are you doing up here anyhow? And I said, I won my medals. And he said, well, you got them? I said, no, Sergeant won't let me have them. He goes, we'll see about that. And he walks down there, and he walks right up to the sergeant, and he looks at me, and he goes, give this Marine his medals. And they opened up the supply cabinet and pulled out the medals. So, I mean, in that sense, yeah, they'll take care of you. When I run into another Marine, it's Semper Fi and all this other stuff. Even then, there's still some times where we screw each other over, and it's not right, but it happens. There's miscommunication, or there's, you're just doing a job or making a living or whatever the hell it is. But in general, we take care of ourselves. The government doesn't take care of us. We take care of us. I have been trying to find a company where it's mostly veterans, so I can work with a bunch of guys that are locked and cocked and speak the same language, and will watch out for each other. We still want to earn a paycheck at the end of every day, and we want to go home and see our family at the end of every day. But I have not been able to find a place where it's mostly veterans, and I can be around the kind of people that I really like to be around. So I would say the government does not take care of you, but your fellow veteran will.
Okay. Well, there's a little ray of sunshine in that. Go ahead.
Agreed.
Okay, so while you guys are still here, what's your favorite war movie? I don't know if I think you guys are busy.
So earlier, when you were talking about you saw the DI with Jack Webb, I was busy salting. I was busy salting the sidewalk because the guy that comes in for third shift was too busy texting his girlfriends and didn't want to work. So here I am on Veterans Day, paid, but not the day off. And it still irks me that while I was active duty, we got Veterans Day. It was a paid day off, unless we were deployed or something. But I mean, as a civilian, I've never gotten that day off paid. That's kind of fucked up. Somebody needs to pass a law about that. But anyhow, I'm out there working while he's sitting on his ass, and I'm doing my job. Okay, that's the Marine in me that gets out there and says, I should be clocking out right now, and he comes in an hour early, and our shifts overlapped for a reason. He should be out here salting, and I knew exactly what he was doing, and that's the difference between some of the veterans and some of the guys that aren't veterans. You have a mission, you accomplish it, you do it, and the other guys are texting his girlfriends, whatever. So I wanted to talk to you, but I had salt all over my hands, and that's why I was able to just chime in real quick. Hey, hold on a minute. But I did see the movie The DI. I actually saw it in boot camp. So the night before we graduated, they played a couple movies for us. They brought in the TV on the cart, right, and the old audio video cart with the VCR, and that was one of the movies. That's the only time I've ever seen that movie. They could not show us Full Metal Jacket because there's a suicide scene in it, and they didn't want to do that, even though what happened in that movie could not happen in boot camp. You could not get a hold of your weapon like that with ammunition and do that. It just wouldn't work. Besides that, all of our M16s were turned into the armory that night, so it didn't matter. They were long gone. So, but anyhow, I don't remember what the other two movies were, but they were all 3 Marine Corps movies, and they were all about boot camp. But I do remember that one. So I have seen one of your old black and white movies, HBS.
What did you think of it, the movie?
I barely remember it. I barely remember it.
Do you remember, what did you think of Jack Webb, like in his DI compared to R. Lee Ermey?
R. Lee Ermey's closer to the real thing. Jack Webb was too, like, I do remember that because we were like, man, these guys are pretty mellow. I think this way, the whole platoon, 65 guys, were disappointed that we could not see Full Metal Jacket. It's like, what? But yeah, I can't remember what the other 2 movies were.
The Marine movies that you saw at boot camp, okay?
Yeah.
You said they were about Marines?
Yeah, it was the only reason they even let us watch that shit was it was the night before we graduated. We were all done with everything. All the paperwork was done. All the uniforms were set. Everything was ready to go for the next day. And it's kind of like, hey, well, we're going to give you 6 hours where you don't do shit. Other than that, it was we trained all the way up to the end, with the exception of that. So.
Okay, I'm not going to guess at the movies. All right. Well, gee, thanks for. Hey, Rupen, did you have a favorite veteran? Do you have a favorite war movie that you like for Veterans Day? You can tell us about.
Favorite war movie? You know, there's a couple different. Some of them may not really be considered. You got like a specific criteria for war movies?
No, just that you liked it. That's all.
One of my favorite war movies has to be, if we're talking like fantasy, I would say Inglorious Bastards. But if we're talking like more or less fantasy, then I'd say Restrepo. But that was like a documentary. But
Speaking of fantasy, that was something I was gonna put to Squib because I don't know if he'd get this quiz question right. Let me see if I can remember it correctly.
And I guess right off the top of my head, I'd probably say that my favorite war movie would probably either be Full Metal Jacket or Top Gun. So,
A Few Good Men is something I quote almost daily with my dad. So,
you know, the whole, why do you protect them? They're bullies. And she says, because they stand on a wall every night and they go, not tonight, not on my watch. You can sleep tonight. Every time I hear that like gets me, right? Because that's why we go do it. That's why we do it. So, but the rest of the movie, I was just.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth. I usually say this whole faggoty white uniform line.
What was that movie that I said that you really didn't like? You didn't like Casablanca, right?
Yeah, that's not a war movie. I mean, you could say, "Well, it happened during World War II."
Well, they shot some Nazis. Okay, but
we watched
Messengers.
Cock Down in basic training.
You watched Black Hawk Down?
Now, they didn't show us the whole movie. They showed us the parts they wanted us to see. Apparently, if you're not aware, there's quite a few learned lessons, apparently, that they show in that movie. Like where people make mistakes, like what not to do. Like when the guy gets shot, what is it, like an LZ, like marking smoke grenade or something, and he gets shot in it, and he runs around, and the other guy goes to try and grab him, and that guy gets shot.
I know.
I never saw Black Hawk Down.
Now the army is like a bunch of things. They're like, don't do this.
Oh.
And then here's don't do this.
The reason I went to Somalia was because of that. They called us in. They said, we need to get our ass down there in a hurry. They're up their necks in trouble. So that's why we went. And I still have not. I've never read the book or seen the movie.
Oh, it's what is it? It's something that's been what is it? Everybody who's a combat engineer loves to take you on 1,000,000-mile ruck marches, trying to bring back the Mogadishu Mile.
Yeah.
Sapper competition. We get to go run the Mogadishu Mile.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just boots and utes.
Yep.
Well, I think the question was what war movie was based on a real movie, and I was what war movie was based on a documentary, and I know one of them you didn't like, and I'm trying to figure out the one that I thought you did because it was a trick question. What more movie did you like recently that you saw?
Recently? You mean like on TV or at the theater?
Anywhere.
Oh boy.
Old, new, doesn't matter.
Damn, man. It'd probably have to be a movie that I maybe got my wife to sit and watch with me. Probably the last war movie I saw recently was Kelly's Heroes, maybe?
Okay, well, that's not based on a real story. A real true story, obviously.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was fiction. Oh, man.
Well, okay, let me put it to you like
I
this.
feel
then.
pretty stupid.
What war movie did you hate that was actually based on a real documentary story written by one of the veterans? I mean, I know which war movie you absolutely thought didn't make any sense.
Is it a John Wayne movie?
No.
Yeah, because
Steve McQueen.
oh, not that Great Escape.
That was based on the book by one of the prisoners. That was a true story. Everything, the characters were composites, but that was a real escape. And so all I wanted to say to you was, because I know you disagreed with the whole concept of the mission, but is that the men who were there, the military people who were there, they thought it was worthwhile, and they were there, and me and you weren't. So it's like, can either of us really like say they were wrong to do what they did? I mean, because I know you had a really strong opinion on that, but they were there and we weren't, is all I was going to say, because that was based on a book by one of the guys who was there.
Don't think that I wouldn't try to escape if I got captured, but my first rule about that was don't get captured.
Well, if they were pilots and they get shot down, I mean, over Germany, you're going to get captured.
I'd probably end up dead before I ended up captured, dude. Especially after what happened in Mogadishu. Holy crap. I'm not saying I'd kill myself. I'm saying they'd end up shooting me because I would go at them with everything I had. They'd have no choice. I mean, that was one of those. You might want to let your buddies know while you're flying in that, hey, by the way, if we get shot down, I'm not surrendering. So.
It would be like, okay, you go that way and we'll go this way.
Well, I mean, yeah, and see, you call that a war movie, and yeah, it is. It is a war movie, but it's not.
It's based on a real, true story. That escape was genuine in every way.
I'm not saying they didn't bust their ass. I'm not saying they weren't. You know, they used a lot of ingenuity, and they did what we were told to do, which was to resist and escape at all possible. Don't give any aid to them. Don't give any information. Don't, name, rank, serial number, well, social security number back then, whatever. That's really about it. You can tell them your religions, and they're supposed to provide the Geneva Convention provides you with religious stuff. And you can tell them your blood type for medical reasons, but I mean, you don't divulge anything, not even your unit strength, even if they know.
Yeah, your main objection, as I recall, was that 50 of them were executed, and so that somehow that made the whole mission a bad idea.
They wanted to escape, and they didn't know how long the war was going to be going on, but they were in a pretty good situation there. It might have been safer for them to ride out the war there. You could say, oh, well, well, one thing is, once you get captured, once you go back, you're not allowed to go back to war, for one. So, at least back then, you weren't allowed to go back. So, you wouldn't have even been able to return to...
They needed pilots pretty bad in that.
They wouldn't let you, they would not let, if you escaped, they would not let you go back, because if you got captured again, you'd be executed. You wouldn't be put in a stalag. They executed anybody who got recaptured. That's what the whole thing about it was. And I think they made a few exceptions for a handful of people. They let them go back to their job, but they would end up putting you on a desk job or something like that if you were lucky enough to escape. So that's one thing. The other thing is the end result, and then maybe they couldn't have predicted the possibility of that, but the end result was so many of them died when they could have just rode it out until the end of the war. I'm not saying that it's always a good idea not to try to escape. But there's also, I mean, it really just depends on your situation. Some of those stalags there where they had the pilots, they were living in much better condition than some of the other POWs, And definitely it wasn't a concentration camp. That's not to say it's Club Med, but compared to what they could be having, you might be, especially if they thought, that their overall, if they had any inclination that the Allies were going to abandon them there, then maybe escaping's a bigger priority. But I don't think anybody went in there with the thought that, the war will eventually be won. It's just how long will it take,
I think nobody knew back then that all of Europe had been conquered by the Nazis. I mean, it had been overrun. Europe was a prison. Europe was a concentration camp. All of it was run by the Nazis.
Look, at the end of the day, Steve McQueen gets shot or whatever in the end. So.
He didn't get shot.
No, I thought he got shot on the barbed wire because he couldn't jump it with his motorcycle or something.
No, he crashed into the fake barbed wire, and they just shot around him and said hands up. They fired some near him and said hands up. Then he just stood up, put up one hand, and he showed them. He turned over his collar on his sweatshirt, which had his military captain's bars on there, and so he wasn't technically in uniform. Because he had his bars on, so he couldn't be shot as a spy. And they had already decided to kill 50 people, and they already had their 50, so they just took him back to the camp. But obviously, that was cinematographic history. Steve McQueen in that motorcycle scene, that was just
probably the reason that they would make a quota for executions was to set an example, so they didn't do it again. They also changed out the camp commander. They had the guy that was kind of the pushover, and then they ended up getting the hard ass in there. And it's like, see, I don't know. You're right. I wasn't there. I'm basing it off of the movie, which is fiction. Okay, you can say they had advisors and they did this and whatever.
It was based on the book written by one of the people in the camp.
Movies skip a lot of stuff. They leave a lot of stuff out. They dramatize it. It could have been rougher in the camp than what it looked like. But I do remember that some of the military history that I've studied show that the Salags were not really that bad. There were situations where it was bad, but the Luftwaffe were the ones that ran the ones with the pilots. And it was kind of like this unwritten code amongst pilots to kind of take care of each other. So they made sure that the Allied pilots had better living conditions than maybe what their Army counterparts or the SS would have given them or something. That doesn't mean that they were immune to anything, and it wasn't like I said, it wasn't Club Med. It just wasn't. It's just, you got to make a decision. And sometimes you're faced with the whole do I die on this hill thing, and the mission has to be worth the risk. And for them, I guess the escaping was worth the risk. Just based on the way the movie was, I don't know for me that it would be. And that's not to say I wouldn't want to escape in general. That was, but like I said, once again, I wouldn't have got captured. So unless I went John McCain and decided to crash my plane right into a beehive of Viet Cong, I'd be doing escape and evasion. I'd be hiding a lot. I'd be doing a lot of hiding. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Your thoughts on that. I'm a big movie guy, so I have my strong opinions and about movies. I really liked the movie I saw last. It's one of my favorites, The Guns of Navarone, and it's Gregory Peck, David Niven, and Anthony Quinn, being special forces guys, dropped into a Greek island in the Aegean Sea to take out two guns in a fortress to open up a sea lane straight to rescue some British soldiers trapped on an island. And,
have you seen any movies that were made after 1979? Because
yeah, that was 1961 when they made The Guns of Navarone, or 63 maybe. I've seen more movies more current than that. I mean, I have the whole DVD collection of the Pacific, which was Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks production of The War in the Pacific. I think we talked about that once, and Sergeant Basilone was in there. I had mentioned that I could do what Sergeant Basilone did on Guadalcanal because he was basically in one place with a machine gun and he just kept it going. But I couldn't do what he did on Iwo Jima. I just too old. Jumping in and out of trenches, running uphill through sand, and diving into like enemy bunkers and beating the crap out of 6 or 7 Japanese guys, and then charging out and running up a hill with I don't know, he was carrying like an air cooled machine gun or something, there's just things I can't do anymore, and it's like, yeah, I'm not 18, and I guess I need to work on getting in better shape, but it's at some point it's like Father Time is undefeated and you can't beat him. You just do the best you can, I guess, as you get older. Yeah, I was just looking at what he did on Iwo Jima. I was like, man, I can't do that anymore. So at some point you realize that, you're not 18 anymore. But I like watching. I've seen a lot of movies. Let's see. I do like old movies better, but let's see. Obviously, I saw the Saving Private Ryan. That was after that year. It's been a while since I've seen Black Hawk Down. What other war movies have I seen?
I'm trying to think of the last war movie I went to the theater to see. Because the only reason I go to the damn theater is because my wife drags me there, and she's not a big fan of war movies. Although, when we watch documentaries together, or we occasionally watch one on TV, she's starting to recognize the guns really well. So
she's gonna be a armorer by the time she's done with you. Let's see.
The last one I saw, I think, was Company 9, that Russian war movie about Afghanistan.
I never saw that one.
They did one about the Russians in Afghanistan in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, it's from Russia, though, so it's all subtitled.
I like subtitled movies. When was Das Boot put out? I like that one.
Oh, it's great. I laughed so hard when this one dude made a penis out of the C4 and he got caught by the instructor. That is some shit that would actually happen.
Yeah,
if the C4 wasn't wrapped up in packages, then that shit would have been going down in my class, the same type of thing. So it's a good movie. I think they all end up dying at the end.
Did you ever make a C4 gopher and blow up a golf course?
No, but I have tasted C4. It was really hot that day, and people started becoming heat casualties. And next thing I know, I'm eating C4 because I was wondering what it would taste like.
And is it better or worse than CLP?
It tasted very chemically. That's all I remember. It was really hot that day. They negatively counseled people for that shit too, man. They forgot water.
Okay.
That's how they do it.
I can't believe you ate that.
Yeah, there's some things that I guess that's just.
I mean, I've got some smokeless powder in my coffee before by mistake, but
But it was like over 115 degrees with a heat cat.
How does eating C4 help you?
I hadn't had water for a couple hours. We were in full kit.
He's a little delirious.
But how does eating C4 help you?
I don't know. I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't out of my mind.
All right.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
I mean, we literally had I ran out of water 2 or 3 hours before I ate the C4, I think. I mean, it's over 100 something. We're wearing body armor. We got all of our fucking gear with us. Just retarded. I mean, you can't do that to people.
Was it
like 3 liters of water an hour at least?
You didn't have a Humvee or a Deuce and a half or anything with water on board?
No,
Okay, so we need
blower?
a challenge. Somebody in the chat wants somebody on the next show to eat C4 on the next Lock and Load show.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just get some out of the basement.
Yeah, I don't think they let civilians have that, even if for an eating demonstration. Best you can do is eat some binary. That would taste like absolute fertilizer. Yeah, I did see they were expendable, and the 2 movies that I did see over the, but they're all black and white before, was over the weekend was Back to Bataan and Bataan, and then Back to Bataan. And John Wayne and Anthony Quinn were in Back to Bataan, and the first one I think was Desi Arnaz, and he was so good in Bataan, I think, but that was made during World War II, and by the time the war was over, everybody forgot how good he was in that role, and he was just Lucille Ball's husband in I Love Lucy after that. So, but he actually did a good role. I forgot which one he was in, but I think Squib, you'll like the ending to the original Bataan, and because everybody goes out fighting, and in Back to Bataan, that was the John Wayne and Anthony Quinn, and that was
so good. You forgot which one.
Man, all the war movies from this weekend just blended into each other. I saw so many war movies. I just kept on Turner Classic Movies like all day, and then I started to go try and watch a Laker game, but they were wearing like one of those anti-gun T-shirts. I mean, at the beginning, and I was like, oh, fuck this shit. I don't want to. I only saw it when they showed what because I tuned in late to the game, and they weren't wearing. They were just wearing their jerseys. But then they showed back they were wearing some enough, and then a list of all the names that got people that got shot. It's like, all right, I could just. I know I'm not going to like LeBron James politics at all, but I mean, it's nice to tune in to watch a Lakers game and not know they're going to lose before the tip-off every time. So, but yeah, if they do politics, they usually don't, though. The Lakers have always been about basketball, not politics. I mean, it's like they don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or black, white, brown, or not. They don't care about anything except, just it's the pure sport of it. And so I think everybody in LA kind of like to watch the Lakers. Everything would stop when Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy. I mean, when I was working, everything would stop. Whatever we were doing, whoever the client was, everything would stop when the Lakers game was on, and we would stop working and just tune the TV in the studio on to the game, and everybody would just stop, no matter who it was, a music act, a film, everybody would just stop and watch the fucking Lakers game. So, but those days are gone. So it's like no more Magic, Kareem, and Worthy, and Cooper and Scott. But anyway, so I'm gonna wrap this one up and say thanks to the panelists. You guys are great. Thanks for being here every week. And I don't know if this counts as a war movie, but this is I like this one from. I know you know which movie this is from, but here's the sound clip.
Yeah, that's a war in space in the future. The guy who played Sergeant Rapone in that movie, he's a veteran.
You'd be surprised how many people in the film industry are veterans. I mean, John Ford was the famous film director, Westerns. He was at the battle. He was on Midway during the Battle of Midway, shooting film of the battle. and I think what he said was he saw the Marines at Midway, fighting. Shooting their guns, anti-aircraft guns at the Japanese planes, and And he said, these kids are like 18 and they have no concept of being defeated. It's like, this war's over. We were going to win. and just...
You say he was filming, so he was a combat correspondent?
He was a combat photographer for the Army. Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of people in the film industry worked for the it was the Army Signal Corps during the war, and that's what John Ford made a documentary. I think he made a documentary that was not. He actually did the like, I think, While America Slept or something, like a documentary that they thought was about Pearl Harbor, the attack that was like too negative, so they didn't release it during the war. You can probably see it on YouTube if you look for it. But it was like everything that went wrong at Pearl Harbor, and but they thought it was too negative at the time for the nation's morale to show, so they just filed it. But you watch it later, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in again, and my great panelists, and thanks to all our veterans and military present, former, and past. And hey, America's here because of you guys. So that's how it goes, and it's worth fighting for, I think. In spite of all of the fucking problems. I mean, people have been arguing about shit since the founding of the Republic. Am I right?
Well, that's one more thing to look at. You know, I try to compare what it's like to serve in the military versus working a civilian job, and the fact that your coworkers sometimes are more like the enemy than your fellow soldier or Marine. But I will say this: the people who didn't serve, who badmouth this country or burn our flag, or where, I'm not talking about talking politics. I'm not talking about not liking Trump or not liking Obama. I'm talking about the people that really badmouth this country, or they burn the flag, or they just disrespect our traditions, and they didn't serve. If they had served, they might have a different attitude. I'm not saying you have to serve, but I'm saying for some people, they don't need to serve to appreciate this country, but there are other people that don't appreciate our country, and I think that had they served, they'd probably have a better attitude about
it. In my case, it's just like my family came from someplace where we didn't have no rights, and Jewish people were either shot or thrown in a gulag, or if you didn't volunteer to fight, you don't get food. I mean, it was just a different time and America has this whole list of things that the government can't do, called the Bill of Rights, and it's a beautiful thing. So let's just hope we can keep on keeping all of our rights, the whole Bill of Rights, all of it's pretty good. And we'll see you again next week. Talk about guns, freedom, and the truth until dawn, or whatever time it is in Michigan. I don't know. See you guys.